what you think may be a limitation for you may actually be what God can use to build his kingdom. I got 2 speaking engagements, topic very related. At some point, I was excited, but as the days draw closer to this program, I ask myself, really, what exactly am I going to say to these people? Because I just feel like, what do you have? I found myself asking myself that question. I've also cried. I've cried to my husband, and my husband was like, do you know what you've done? And yeah, I get that, but a part of me still has that doubt. And like a baby girl of Jesus that I am, I go to God in prayer and I cry and I'm like, what exactly do you want me to speak to these guys about? I don't feel like I've done anything to warrant having to speak to them. And funny how earlier this year, he made me read the book of Exodus. So he took me back to my jottings and my readings in that time. And he reminded me of how Moses himself was in doubt. And he had to ask Moses, what do you have in your hand? And Moses was holding his shepherd's rod. That's the rod he uses to take care of his father-in-law's sheep. And he says, give it to. And now Moses lays it at his feet and he turns it into a serpent, showing him evidence, telling him, this is what you're going to do when you get to the Israelites and tell them you're from me and they don't believe you. That's your evidence. And when you get in front of the Egyptians as well, this is what you're going to do. I just sit with that thought and I'm like, Hadassah, what do you have in your hand? Why would God give you this opportunity and confirm you're supposed to go? One of my main confirmations in life is my husband, because he's the authority over my head right now, not my father, not my mother. And I look at it and I'm like, I see where you're going. You just brought me to the realization that what you have in your hand that you think might be a limitation for you, or that you feel like, I'm not sure if this is good enough, might just be what God can use if you give it to him. And I'm such a firm believer that every part of your life, like Moses, for instance, he wasn't taken in by Pharaoh's daughter for no just cause. Realize that he was an Israelite. But he knew how to speak the Israelites' language, right? He knew how to be them because that's who he was as birth. But he had to go and live with Pharaoh and his children so that he knows how they reason. He knows how he's going to speak to them. And all those things were utilized at the time where he was brought back to take the Israelites from there. You understand? What is that thing you feel like is a limitation to you, but God can use for his kingdom? If you give it to him, what is in your hand?